Hey everyone, this is Greg with Medical Muscle, and I wanted to share with you what I did in my gaps between graduation at my undergrad and then going into term one, and then my gap between term 1 and 2, and the gap that I'm currently in between 2 and 3, okay? After graduating, I had a whole year off. It wasn't an ideal situation, but that's what happened to me. So my goal was to make it as productive as possible. I thought it would be a good idea to TA anatomy. I hadn't taken anatomy in a long time, and I thought what better way to refresh myself in anatomy than to TA it at a junior college. We were shut down halfway through the term, so we went from the cadaver lab, being hands-on, to going fully online for the second half, but that experience alone was huge. That was such a great way to refresh all this information and get my brain ready for the anatomy that I was going to see in term 1 and 2. It was incredible. It was such a good decision. I think if you have any time, any gap year, any time between, you graduating and starting term 1 at any medical school, I think it would be smart to TA either biochemistry or anatomy or physiology or one of those types of core classes. It's just a good way to get one more review of the material, and like the added bonus, I was paid, so that was kind of cool. I was able to get into this class that's like super impacted. There's a lot of students that are trying to get into it, but I got around that by TAing. So it was a smart plan, got paid for it, and it was a lot of fun. It's kind of cool to work with students who are also thinking about going to medical school. So that was a cool thing that I got to do. Going up to school, like maybe a couple months before, I was practicing with technology. Okay, so like I bought a new laptop, I bought the iPad Pro, getting used to using a stylus instead of pencil and paper. I also learned how to use Anki. This is the best time to learn all those things, especially Anki. If you have any problems with Anki, you want to get them smoothed out before the term starts, because then you're going to be at full speed and you really need to know how to use it. Any kind of technology, learn how to use your computer, learn all the shortcuts, learn how to use your iPad, set up all your colors, set up like how you're going to take notes, practice that kind of stuff. It seems stupid, but it'll really help you, because when you're at full speed, you're not really going to have that time to learn. Okay, you need to know how to use it. Okay, that was my huge suggestion. Now, how I practiced Anki was St. George, and probably a lot of medical schools, gives out information or study material that you should know going into term 1. They kind of gave us some lecture stuff and slides and stuff like that. So I went through every single one of those, and I'm going to say it was probably one of the best ideas you can possibly do. Take any kind of, if they suggest any kind of material that you need to know, cover it. Okay, it was such a good refresher to go through cell cycle, physiology, some biochemistry stuff, and sure enough, that same exact stuff came up in exams, okay, in term 1. So huge help, and I would use that information and practice making Anki cards, practice downloading them, practice, transitioning it between my laptop to my cell phone. It was such a good way to practice what medical school would be like during this gap year. Okay, so that's what I did. Now term 2, very different. I already knew the technology part. Now I was smoothing out between term 1 and term 2. That gap, for me it was winter, because I had fall was term 1, so I had a winter gap, 5 weeks. Definitely take time for yourself. You need to decompress, definitely. But I think it's a smart plan to keep your brain active and prepare for the term that's coming up. That's one of the best things I could say. If you want an A, or if you want to do well, you really need to study during your breaks. You don't have to go crazy, but start looking at the lecture material. If there's any available lecture material, cover it. So for my gap between term 1 and 2, I found a program made by an upperclassman, and it was basically covering all the stuff that we had seen in term 1 and a little bit that we're going to see in term 2, and it was all done through Boards and Beyond. So I would look at lecture material that was, you know, linked up with what day of the week that I was supposed to be covering stuff. I thought it was too much. I actually found it way more useful to cover the stuff that I was going to see. Term 1 stuff, reviewing that stuff was great, but because I had done well and I understood it, I didn't think it was that like beneficial for me. But I think it's a smart plan. If there was some topic that you really struggled with in term 1, it might be a good idea to go back through it just lightly during your break. However, I do think the biggest benefit was covering the stuff that I was going to see, because the pace that term 2 goes in St. George is faster than term 1. I mean, it builds up incredibly quick. So you really need to pre-study, and in all honesty, that was my best exam, was the first exam, because I had studied that material over the break, and then like when I saw it again, it was just review, and then I killed that exam. So, smart plan. Do some pre-reading. It's a good idea. Now, during this block between term 2 and term 3, I have a little break. Same thing, 5 weeks in the summer. Definitely taking some time off for myself, enjoying myself. Okay, you have to do that. That's a good idea. But you should also be analyzing, like, okay, what study techniques didn't work and which ones did? And try to make a plan in your head. Okay, that's a good idea. Think about how to optimize your time a little better. And then, same thing as the other 2 breaks, I would pre-study. Doing a little bit. You know, if you have any access to lecture slides, just go over them. You know, make a couple of Anki cards. Just get a little ahead so that when you get into that first week or 2 weeks, you've already kind of looked at the material. It's not some crazy, out of this world, you've never seen this kind of material before kind of stuff. You've seen it, and it's nice. It's nice to know that you've already seen this material. You feel more confident. I did. I felt a lot more confident when I got into this kind of stuff. And then because I'm in research, I'm also writing papers. That's what I'm doing during this gap. It doesn't sound very fun, but I'm getting them done so I don't have to do as much work in the term. You know, that's a little different. That's an experience that not everybody has, but that's what I'm doing. So I hope that was good information. You know, if you get anything out of this, just the minimum, try to do any kind of pre-reading that you can. Anything. If you can get the first week done of medical school during your break, like reviewing that material, you're doing very well. Okay. Hey, hope you guys do well on your exams. Go kick some butt.